Hi, what's up? We're in the next part. So I went and I perused. Please go check out the previous parts to gauge your bearings. I went and I perused the previous part, to gauge if I did tell that story. Basically, that is similar to the story of Tswatswa. Well, not similar to the story of Tswatswa, sorry, but to highlight the qualms that I used to have with my ex-boyfriend, and the fact that I could observe that men in his life were basically trying to train him or educate him away from loving me. And he struggled to do that because he was ambivalent. He was caught in between worlds. He was being told to pendulum out of his natural character. The baseline thing that he was perpetually being pressurized to gravitate away from it because it allegedly made him less of a man to love his woman. Whereas in the scriptures, it is made clear that it is only those husbands that love their wives that will gain favor in the sight of the Lord, because in the absence of listening to their wives, the scriptures make it clear that men's prayers get hindered. They get hindered. So God does not look very favorably upon guys who club together in silly little man caves and talk bad or down to the other half of the human race. Adam's rib, God's creation, made in the image of God. He will not take it. Excessive authority, or like I guess what would be the tantamount of toxic masculinity, basically abusing the power that you have. It was not ever God's plan for man. He gave man leadership over woman, but man was supposed to be responsible with it and not abuse the power. Because when they abuse the power, they abuse women, and they make half of the earth very unhappy. Half of the earth of which belongs to God. And so the Lord does not want women just walking around as zombies that are at the beck and call of men, having disregarded and completely dumped at the doorstep everything that they've ever been. Do you understand? Just to make a man feel comfortable that he is now head. So when then they start to abuse their authority, God handles them and punishes them by ignoring their prayers. He ignores their petitions. He ignores their plight in this world and just leaves them to roll around like a tumbleweed in the desert, just basically gathering more weed around him with no real true girth. Ultimately, the end result of such men as these is they mess up with really good girls, they end up lonely older, and they try to find whatever it is that they had in their youth that they messed up constantly in very irresponsible ways. Like they date young women, they float up and down, bouncing on beach balls, trying to regain their girth in like their midlife crisis with motorcycles and just trying to reinvent themselves. It is men that have honored their wives and stayed with their wives that have much better outcomes or old ages. They make for better grandfathers, they make for better dads, they make for better husbands, latter years, they make for better bosses in the office, they make for better businessmen. They just do so much better. Like men who stay with their wives and have honored them and who actually have, a low-key, men. In other words, there is a respect there. A feasible respect, not uksaba in the sense of, ooh, my wife is gonna beat me, but just basically knowing how to tread lightly around a woman's petitions, a woman's insistences, a woman's desires, to respect umfazi. It lends these men a much better future, and history has repetitively proven that. These random single guys at the age of 55 that have a whole bunch of money that change up models, or change up young women, or continue to bounce around in these streets with women much too young for them and end up marrying them. They don't have the glory of men who have stayed with their wives all throughout, and men who have actually honored their women. So honoring women, it allegedly apparently makes you lose a street cred as a kid, but if you stick to those guns, it appears later on in life they just have such better outcomes, and the buffoons are proven such later. The ones that messed up, they are the ones that are unstable in their middle age. They are the ones that are unstable in their latter years. They are the ones that are not respectable in society. They don't have good wives to show for what under heaven it is that they are. They're just carnal, and they live in cold, empty homes where they keep on swapping women, changing it up a storm, females that they are financing the lives of, paying the university tuitions of, but there is no warmth. Sometimes they even marry multiple times over, really just trying to find whatever it is that they lost at first. So they will have second wives, third wives, fourth wives, etc., and they just never can bounce back again. They can never bounce back. So the folly of youth ultimately produces those horrible fruit later on in their grown man years. Indeed, Solomon gives all of these admonitions in the Proverbs precisely to warn young men to not be idiots, to not neglect the adoration of the breast of the wife of their youth. Like, ever love the woman of your youth. And a lot of times, God will introduce a man to the ride or die, to the one in his youth. And they always mess up with these women since they're young, because they're still doing dumb things out in these streets. And the women that they mess up with when they are still young, they do it precisely because they think they've got time. I already briefly touched on this. They think they've still got time. They think they'll find something else out there, that it will get better. So they imagine really there's more where they came from. And it is that mindset that causes them to later on severely regret having messed up with, like I said, the right chick, and having severely messed up with that woman. They can never bounce back. They never can. And it keeps on getting proven over and over and over and over and over and over again. They then become the bane of the existence of their wives, whoever they eventually end up with, because they're still hung up on an ex from long ago. The Lord never intended for men and women to stay single well into their 30s, 40s, men and women to be sowing their royal oats, or whatever that means, men and women disregarding just what it is that they're supposed to get done right and ready in their youth. He knows that human beings are brittled and riddled all over the show with passions that they need to subdue, so he gives them the perfect guy or the perfect girl very young, that they might basically explode their passions in a marriage where he will make it possible for them to love each other all the way to the very end. I spoke in my previous part about how it is that rarely ever do people actually truly overcome feelings for exes, and that people should not recreationally date for those reasons. The fact that you can still be hung up over an ex that you were with 20 years ago evidences that it is possible to be happily married after 20 years and very much in love with your wife. Happily married after 40 years. God makes it possible to be in love with a person from the beginning to the end. So it is a lie from the pit of hell to imagine that it's unreasonable to expect a person to be with one person for life. God makes it possible to love them, but unfortunately the human race makes so many mistakes in that they mess up with the woman or the man that they loved when they were 18, 19, 20, 25. They mess up and then think that they can survive, they can move on. They break up, it doesn't work out, and literally nobody else compares until you go to the grave at the age of 84. Until you pass away, it's literally that girl that you met when you were 21. It's nothing like her has ever come since. The one that you imagine there's more where they came from, that you have been hung up on ever since. You have never recovered, evidencing that if you had been a better man, done a better thing at that 21 years of age, you would have married your lifelong love, that they only find out once they've messed up and they miss her now that they're 43 and they're married to a woman that frankly, you're not Karabo. It's a basic. You're not her. You're not her. And this is what then causes them to basically adore fellowship with sorcery, darkness, to handle exes, to make sure they don't ever meet anybody else, make sure that's why I get a good job. So my ex, what he did to me, his just the ambivalence in him due to the fact that he had these random stupid boys telling him, "Hey man, you need to man up." Whoa, he was already a man among them, the best one, for crying out loud. But you see, this world is upside down. It's upside down. According to them, manhood is ignoring women, slapping them with gaslighting, reverse psychology, narcissistic personality disorder on fire, pretending you don't love a woman when you do, refusing to completely show your affections for her, all that. Goodness gracious. Who's this? Mooney Long has the song called That's That Pain. It's just been the plight of Mooney Long is a young woman in her 20s now, right? I'm 38. It's like they be singing these songs still. This is gonna happen to Generation Alpha. You must understand. Jada Z is currently making these mistakes now. My little sister. My little sister's next generation after her. Alpha. Same mistakes. Mooney Long is a generation after me. She is probably a millennial, or maybe just at the very beginning of Gen Z. Mooney Long. And she is singing the same song that women across the world are saying. Why will you not tell me how you feel? Why will you not just keep it real? Oh, I wanna love a homie friend, someone who's genuine. Na 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 na. You women, na na. No, yeah, whatever. That's that pain. That's that pain. Do you feel that pain? That pain. That's that pain. Do you feel that pain? I want you proud. Hope you cross cross your mind at least once a day. That's that pain. I hope you feel it. Da, da, da. Hope it knocks you off your feet. I hope it puts you in the dirt. Skirt. Na 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 na. Anyway, basically Mooney Long's song is a song of lament about a guy just who slept with reverse psychology in the relationship, refused to show basically the extent of his feelings for her. Refused. Just absolutely refused. And then they break up and he's on that pain. In that pain. Do you feel that pain? That pain. That's that pain. Do you feel that pain? I hope you cry. I hope it cross your mind at least once a day. So the way that women feel like they're going to handle men is by them finally realizing after they've lost that girl, why will you not tell me how you feel? We've been on that tip. It's a strategy. Literally men, they band together soon as they are old enough to have relationships that are endearing, insofar as they're old enough to basically be in a position to make a decision to love a woman. They start to band together and be like, don't you ever show a lady you love her. Don't you ever let her know how much you actually feel about her. Never ever let your feelings. What the heck? When Christ said, love your wives the way that Christ loved the church, basically you must show her the extent, the fullness of it, the girth of how much you adore her. Just like Adam after Eve was made, what was his proclamation? This at last is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. Instead of saying that, rather what they do, because Adam and Eve fell, is rather stand on the rooftops protesting against their own feelings and wanting to lord it over women with an iron fist to a point of disregarding them altogether so they can subdue them, precisely because Eve's curse is to ever desire her husband. From now on, your desire will be for your husband. With Adam, you will lord it over her with an iron fist. So she wants love, he doesn't give it. And it's just been going on and on and on, and it will continue all the way up until the end of time. Mooney Long will rock up in Generation Alpha and still be like, why do you not tell me how you feel? Why will you just not keep it real? Oh, why? I want to hold me, love a friend, or someone who's genuine. There's that pain. It's like, whoa, they're gonna keep singing like the same songs. History. It repeats itself over and over and over again. So they counsel one another to not show women love because they're capitulating, of course, to the curse of Adam, the first Adam. And absent of embracing the second Adam, they won't even see that it's a curse to counsel each other in stupid man caves to be narcissistic against women, cause them to fall violently in love with you without reciprocating any such love, be at odds inside your own self, and internal turmoil, ambivalence is what's going on inside your own heart. You want to love your lady, but no, you don't want her to see it, so you hold back. What? Everton. Women want to be loved and these guys are like, I'm not gonna show it. Everton. Shafati, bye. God. It's like you're pinching your buttocks, you're clenching your butt cheeks. You don't want to be free. You don't want to be free. It's like wearing a bra all day and you are just like suffocating from this thing that's grooving into your skin, creating lines, and you won't take it off despite being home and let them hang. They refuse to let it go because according to them, that's what makes for a man to completely unlove a woman. And I mean, according to the scriptures, that's the very opposite of what makes for a man. Only he who loves his wife the way that Christ loves the church is actually worthy of being called a real man, for he has listened to the real man. He has listened to the man Christ Jesus. He has embraced the second Adam. And so the curse of the first Adam, he subdues. He beats his flesh into submission. He exercises self-control over it that he might not be the bane of his wife's existence. And similarly to women, in being godly, you win them over for Christ through your peaceable and tranquil adoration of the King, because that is what makes them sober. Godliness and not savagery wins men over. I cannot say that enough. But your desire to be loved, indeed it is your curse. You will do anything for it, to a point of fighting other women in a cockpit like you're in the Hunger Games arena, and literally may the best women win, fighting unto death other women just to get a drop, a pin drop, an iota of affection from your boyfriends or your husbands. You will go on right ahead and treat all other women out here in these streets like they ain't jack, just so you can be the only one to get the pipette sized drop of adoration, on your scorched tongue, like you're the rich man in the flames of hell, asking Lazarus to put a drop of water on his tongue to relieve him from the fire that they're in. It's a satanic strategy that men can't even wake up and realize, frankly, is rooted in the fall of Adam. He was told, you are going to want to rule her, and you are going to refuse to basically let her be a helper suitable, while women will do anything to get his affection, including disregarding other women. Anything. So we are having this epidemic of these cold marriages of unloving men with disrespectful women that are cantankerous, dripping taps that won't stop screaming, yelling, complaining, running their mouths, gossiping their husbands in their turn all over the community, finding comfort in decimating other females, and in and of themselves having no real virtue, moral character. However, they keep on going to church, and so they think they're saved in Christ. However, they are abominable in the sight of the Lord, men of which also are hindered in their prayers. So when they pray, they don't get any answered prayer, and when they don't get answered prayer, everything falls apart for them until they end up these middle-aged no-brainers that are unrespectable in society, precisely because of the fact that they don't have honoring and honorable children, as well as honoring and honorable wives. And then it just keeps on happening over and over again. Generation X, Y, Z, and now Alpha. And I mean, I could go back, baby boomers. It just keeps happening. Same thing. And it will culminate with the end of the world. And here it is that my ex-boyfriend had this baseline beautiful personality that he was given from birth, a baseline way that he was. And when we started dating, he was rolling around in it, started wreaking havoc in my life just 6 months after us being together, because he kept on listening to guys saying, man up. And I mean, really, what my ex was supposed to say was, I am actually really the manliest man out of all of y'all, because what makes me a man is not so much my material wealth and possessions, the way that you guys are already materially kind of strong. I love my girlfriend in a way that she can feel, that she can tell, that she can perceive, that she can smell, that she can touch. She actually knows I love her. And they made him slow the heck down. And now he's lost his girl because she got saved and he didn't, while they went on right ahead to marry the women that they messed up. They went on right ahead to marry the women that they hurt, but that did not get rescued by Jesus. So they settled, and he's the only one, he's the only one that did not get to marry. It's so freaking sad. Like, they badly counseled him and went on right ahead to marry the lady that they hurt, and he's the only one that walked down the aisle too, by basically second or third best, the woman that he did not want but that he had to settle for because the one he wanted didn't want him back. I conquered the darkness because I came to Christ, and today he is sad and broken and devastated, while all of them are literally roaming these streets into the sunset, into the future, with the women that they would have lost if they had given their lives to Christ. But those women are miserable because these men are still employing strategies on them. I feel sorry for him. I really do. He had it right. He got it right. But he dropped the ball because he listened to a bunch of little children go crèche who were telling him that he's a child in crèche when he was rather the bigger boy among them. But he allowed himself to be shrunk. He was given a bad case of dwarfism, and then he ended up a small little child, but the one that lost a girl, while everyone else of them literally got walked down the aisle to by naive girlfriends that thought they would change because they got married. Yeah, so among the things that happened to my ex, I feel sorry for him, but I'll be okay in like 2 days because frankly he had it coming. Whenever I tell these stories, I just get so nostalgic that like I get regressed, but I guess it's important to tell. One of the things that the ambivalence that was dwelling inside my ex-boyfriend was evidenced in one event that caused my car, and the event that also caused me to stop drinking. The event that caused my car to get a dent on the side of it, and to this day still that dent is still there, right? We went partying at this one restaurant / club of a friend of his, and we were always there. We went there like almost every weekend. We had fun there and went home, etc. When at that stage I had my own apartment, and he would visit me every single weekend, and we went to this like joint. It was a little bit of a rainy day, and I was happy. I was still drinking alcohol. I told you my ex stopped drinking for the sake of our relationship because alcohol was starting to wreak havoc in his life. You're gonna have to check out the previous parts to gauge that bearings, right, to understand that particular story. Yeah, so I was drinking drinking, he was a designated driver. At this stage, he'd already gotten his driver's license. And so I could like drink it up a storm and enjoy myself while he stayed still sober. We went there, Rajaiva, blah blah, etc. It was nice, right? Oof, oof, oof. That's the music. Then a friend of his, my ex was very popular. He knew like pretty much all of Johannesburg. I don't know how anybody can know that many people. But yeah, he just like everywhere we would go, yo boy, dude, what's going on? That was my ex. I enjoyed it. I was like, oh, Mr. Popular. Anyway, whatever. So yet another guy from out of nowhere that I didn't know, out of like, he had a lot of friends that he was in the lives of actively, but of course others from like the past. So here was a guy from the past that didn't know me. At that stage, we were already together for a couple of years, maybe 3 going on 4. And so everybody in his life knew me, Nikile Medi, and no friend of his would have ever disrespected me like that actually knew who I was. My ex, however, had, like I said, a whole bunch of randos, others that he knew. And this guy rocked up and, did with my ex like what usually a lot of people when my ex is in public do. Yo, dude, hey, what's up? And I was a sweet girl, so I'm there in the party. The guy rocks up, greets his boy, and I go there. I was with him when his boy sort of kind of came to say hi, and this dude was like, hi, yo, dude, what's going on? And I looked at this guy and I was like, hi, and I was so excited to see him because I was always excited to see all the weird and wonderful people that my ex knew. And as French and as kind as I was, this guy looked at me once as I was greeting him with all my excitement, and he was like, he then looked away, like he looked at me, looked at my boy on some, yo, hi, Dagi, you're gonna get to hit that. I don't know if I already told that story, but I'm telling it again because I lost footage. I want you to understand the things that, like the ambivalence that my ex was in when it came to horrible men, and them basically like causing him to glitch and twitch and morph out of his own character. And this dude looked at me, looked at my ex, and he was like, yo, hi, Dagi, you're gonna get to hit that. Yo, guys, okay, let me translate that into English. He said to my ex, yo, she's drunk, like, so you definitely gonna get some tonight. She's gonna put out easy because she's like gone. And he said that I was right there. Yazi, the misogyny in South Africa, it is no wonder we've got such a bad case of gender-based violence. These men, these guys, they have no love, no respect for women. The way bakhuluma nathi, ngati, ngakona, the way they talk with and to us and about us, I don't even know how anybody can justify that. He just looked at me, and while I was right there, just like what the cousin did in the previous part I explained at the wedding, looking at my ex, looking at me, talking about me while I'm there, downplaying me, and it caused a ruckus in me, but I couldn't leave Val. Same thing happened that night. Guys, he looked at me, and then my ex told my ex that she's nice and drunk, you won't get to hit that, audibly in a way that I could hear. And I looked at my ex like, are you gonna let him? Are you gonna let him? I looked at him like basically to be like, the ball is in your court. You better tell this guy, set the record straight. You and I have been together for these many years. He does not get to talk like that about me, your girlfriend. It was similar to that scene in the movie Temptation with Judith, where Bryce does not protect Judith from some random dudes who disrespected her and called her the B word, and it ruined their night out, their anniversary, her birthday night out eating. It ruined it, and she went home upset, angry, and all she could say in the morning when they woke up, she was like, why didn't you protect me? Why didn't you say something? Why didn't you stand up for me? And it caused Judith to basically cheat on her husband with Harley, precisely because Harley protected her against some other guy that came up against Judith and made her uncomfortable. She was jogging in the park, and some dude mistakenly brushed against Judith and she fell on the floor, and Harley was like, he basically like about to punch this guy, and Judith is like, it's okay, really, it's fine, he made a mistake. And for her it was like, whoa, Harley protects, he stands up for me when I'm down, but my husband couldn't even come up against a dude who didn't even mistakenly hurt me, but actually called me the B word and talked about me like I was nothing in front of him. Why didn't he stand up for me? Just cowardice, like just letting something go. Stuff like that will cause a woman to leave or to go out on you, type thing. Like somebody else that will basically do what you won't do. Women like just intrinsically long for manhood and for guys to basically stand up to the occasion. So when dudes don't stand up for their women, I know that is a first class ticket to the exit of a relationship. It's that basic. And here it is that I'm happy. I greet my boy's friend, my man's friend. He then says to my boyfriend that she's drunk, you're gonna hit that tonight. Get mad. You don't get to talk to me like that. I could have been married to my ex, and if I was his wife, he would have listened to some buffoon speak like that about his wife. And here it is that I'm looking at my ex on some, are you gonna let him? Are you gonna let him? I gave him that look, and my ex just looked at me. He looked away from that look that I gave him, and he just continued to talk with this guy on some Hai Mansuga Wena, and had this like house on fire conversation while I retreated. And I was so sad. I retreated. I think I put my, like, was it Hunter's Dry or whatever, down, and I think I went outside. I was boiling. It was night time. If at all, I might have even been sweating. And for me, guys, I got mad. I got so sad and angry. My ex followed me out, and I was like, your friend just called me a whore, and you did not even stand for me. And he was like, my baby, it was gonna cause a whole thing. Come on. I was like, no, it wasn't. He was your boy. He's your friend. All you had to say was like, no, boy, don't talk like that about my girl. He made yam. We've been together for 3 years. Karabo, this is Jabu. No, you could not even do that, dude. You just brought, like, he disrespected me in front of you. And it was not the first time that happened. Remember the occasion at the wedding Koval, where his cousin spoke about me nasty in front of him, and he did nothing. We had a raucous after getting home, and I was like, wow, like what? I was so angry. On top of that, like I said, I was intoxicated. He was sober. He wasn't drinking, and he was the designated driver that night. I was like, I'm going home. Yeah, I'm not staying. I was so upset that we had to leave. And as we were leaving, while we were still arguing, en route the vehicle in the parking lot, he was gonna drive home. I was content that he should drive home because I was drunk, but we were going home. Some dude go the bathroom, the toilets that we passed, so that club. That dude heard me talking with my ex, basically crying and complaining about the fact that he didn't protect me, didn't stand up for me. And this dude with no context, no understanding, then says to my boyfriend, "Hi, khululega boy, I'm sorry, uzophola." Yazi, this interjecting menace. My ex then looked at him and was like, sure, yo, guys. Yes, first of all, like it was like I was being attacked by a whole bunch of misogynistic miscreants. And this guy, having no context as to why we're even fighting ex yamnam, he then goes on and comforts my ex and say, but he basically said to my ex something along the lines of, these women, she's busy throwing her toys out the cot because udagiwe, kulega, I'm sorry, you'll be good tomorrow morning, don't worry. They all hate women so much that without even knowing what's going on, the moment when a woman is crying, complaining, talking, they automatically literally feel like they have to come and protect their boy from this ranting female. This is a man about to lose the love of his life, and these fools are like, just ignore her. My ex, like I said, that's not how he rolls, but he just let two men in one sitting basically throw insult into injury and bomb a situation that was already burning. And when he responded to that random fool with that, he should have said to the new fool that didn't even know us, that just overheard the raucous, he should have said to him, "Ay man, it's none of your business." I would have felt better. I would have let him drive us home. It's none of your business. Or even just ignore him, say nothing, just walk by. Instead, he was like, sure. Yo, it's like he was receiving comfort from a man because, yo, man, I'm sorry. Yar. Yes, like it. Can you be more destructive? Can you be more abusive? It is no wonder South Africa has inclined exponentially in its gender-based violence. It's because that kind of stuff goes on. They cheer men on in their insanity until eventually one drives a knife into the heart of a woman. They celebrate each other. It's like a Hunger Games arena, just a sporting event, like the kind of barbaric observation of a sporting match unto death, like that which you would find in the Colosseum with gladiators fighting unto death, like the observation of the killing of a situation, just just for blood, nje, until umuntu ugcina abulele imedi, just to please some guys, until a guy feels so entitled to respect that he has not earned, that uzobulala imedi just because she's complaining about something, or leaving because she's fed up of being harassed by a man cave that doesn't even have context, a man that will stand for his girl. And when then she decides to leave because, dude, I'm done here, then this man, these chanting, grunting, brunting boys that don't know anything, that have no context, then cheer him on. And when then she finally gets out He then is like, guys, look what I'm gonna do. Thanks for supporting me. I'm gonna put a bullet in her head. And that's the final thing that's going to be like, that's how you handle a woman. That is the epidemic of violence in South Africa against women. That's where we find ourselves today. Ngamhlanje ngiyabulalwa ke the same guy. Ngamhlanje ngiyabulalwa ke the same people. Because they keep getting cheered on in their insanity. They're part of the problem, and then they have the brazen audacity to go on Twitter and hashtag am I next. And not am I next, but all men are trash, or hashtag GBV. Basically men standing for women who keep on getting massacred. Mara, they are part of the problem. They, like, without context or understanding issues between two people who are in love, you whack and fella because you automatically assume that a woman who has hlangisa when she's complaining. You automatically assume that a woman is going crazy and is afflicting a man with her when she cries about something that's just happened. I was just called a whore in front of my boyfriend, and he said nothing to this guy to correct that. And when I'm storming off, another guy's like, chill, relax, boy, you'll be fine. These ranting, complaining, rando B words, they just never stop. You'll be fine tomorrow. Just they're like, yeah, I'm relax. Like, yo, guys. Yeah, you can see how it is that this relationship ended up ending. It just couldn't last. There was no way it was gonna last. So because of that event, because of what happened, I would have allowed my ex to drive us home. Instead, I was so angry that I was like, futhi letter ikyazam, bring my car keys. I'm driving. It's my car. I told you that my ex didn't have a car yet at that stage. I was like, bring my keys, I'm driving. He was like, Karabo, you're drunk. You can't drive, I'm sober. What's wrong with you? I was like, it's my car. If you want to stay here, you can stay, but I'm driving out. If anything, I would have driven off. He can get taken home by that random fool that swore at me. So he hopped in the car passenger seat real quick because he saw that I was going to drive off without him. And indeed, I basically sped off. It was raining that night, so there were puddles. It was like a drizzling. There were puddles of water on the ground. It was around 1 a.m. in the morning. Thankfully, there was no traffic therefore on the streets. It was around Mayfair, that neighborhood. Yeah, goodness gracious. I was driving, and because I was busy arguing with my ex, I decided to basically accelerate my car. And then what happened is I drove over like a puddle of water, right? And that caused my tires to lose control, my car to lose control. And I was headed straight for some car that was parked. And to avoid it, I swerved the steering wheel, right? And that's when my vehicle spun. Like about 3 times, as from my own recollection that I think happened. It spun 3 times, and if at all my car had continued in that trajectory and hit a pavement, it would have rolled, right? And so therefore my car would have either been totaled or undrivable, basically, and we could have died or been injured. I understand that I am a woman that is building a career. I'm studying. I've got a future. If the police had come there with my car rolled over like that and I was the driver, yeah, I would have basically gotten a criminal record for drinking and driving. So my future that night could have been absolutely destroyed, devastated, simply because my boyfriend would not stand up for me. He just, like, I got taken to the end of myself. I blew my top because I was insulted in front of a man that was supposed to make a better decision, and he made me irrationally decide to drive despite being drunk, alle sober, and on a driver's license. The car spun 3 times, and it was stopped by the amazing grace of God, by a pole, a street lamp. If that street lamp was not there, the car would have, upon hitting the pavement, just then rolled over. So that's what stopped it. After it happened so quickly, I was shook. My ex was shook. We were both cool and alive. And at which point there was like silence for like a minute. And then sobriety happened and I started to cry. I started to cry. And when I started to cry, my ex was like, gotta get out of the car. I told you guys that my ex never used to call me by my name. It was always either baby or whatever, some puppy name. But of course this time around it called for name calling now. And he was like, get out of the car. Like, this guy had such temperance. Like, he was so temperate. I promise you, I've never met a person like this. You know when they say a person baseline character, baseline personality is just heavenly? Yeah. He was like, get out of the car. And I'm like crying. And I stayed in the car, wapuma, right? He got out, he was in the passenger seat, right? And he stood up, and when he was outside, he kept on being like, get out of the car. And I was still in the car and so crying, at which point he blew his top and he hit the top of my car, right? And he was like, get out of the car. At which point I was like, I jumped, right? He'd never raised his voice ever in all that time that I'd been with him like that. And I understood this where he was coming from, because I had literally just nearly killed us both. And so I jumped and I got out of the car crying, and literally with my tail in between my legs went around, got into the passenger seat, and then he got into the main driver's seat. And as I was walking to get to the passenger seat, I noticed that the neighbors who were asleep woke up, and some of them were out of their yards looking, because when the car was spinning, it made a noise. And then it hit the pavement and stood. It was drivable basically. When I saw the neighbors having come out, I at that stage was like, okay, well, we've caused a scene, whatever. I got in the car and my ex got into the driver's seat, banged my door closed. Like I said, he had a temper. He was calm. He had a very temperate personality, but this time he was not the kind of person to bang doors, raise his voice. And this was basically my observation of the first time of seeing his anger getting to a height, right? And I understood. I got it. Whatever. I got in the passenger seat and I was still curled up crying basically, and he drove us all the way home. I slept. I was drunk, remember, like out of my mind, inebriated. And so I ended up sort of kind of giloka. I fell asleep in the vehicle while he was driving us home, and I didn't see him stop at a garage or anything like that, but that's what he did. When I say that guy had a temperance, guys, like a calm still about him, despite the anger that he had with the fact that I nearly killed him. He got out of he got out of the car, right? Not got out of the car. He had stopped garaging. We arrived Kontlung, and then when we were there, when we were parked now, go parking lot outside of my apartment, it was back now to baby and not Karabo. I think in the drive back home, I cried until I slept, right? He basically ended up admitting to himself that I was the domino, the first one to tip that caused this event to happen tonight, this incident. It happened because of me. If I had respected my girlfriend, if I had not basically allowed some dude to call her a whore in front of me, and then some other dude to pamper and comfort me for her crying and throwing her toys out the cart, if I hadn't allowed any of that, this situation wouldn't have happened. She got insulted, she got offended, and I did not do anything to eradicate the circumstance. I didn't do anything to guys, let's move to the next part. I don't like to speak for more than 40 minutes, right? We'll just reconnect the story in the next part.